Hello, it is 6 a.m. in Columbus, Ohio. It is 3:30 p.m. in Kabul. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is World One, live from London. But we begin in the United States with the presidential race. On Tuesday, Republicans in 10 states voted for the man they want to run against Barack Obama in November. That is the highest number of states voting all at once, hence the name Super Tuesday. But there was nothing super about it for perennial fourth-place finisher Ron Paul. No wins for him. Newt Gingrich finished first in his home state of Georgia. Mitt Romney won 6 states and Rick Santorum 3. Well, it takes heart. It also takes stamina, but it again takes a lot of hard cash to run for the White House. That's never been a problem for Romney, whose Super Tuesday win was super expensive. Jonathan Mann explains.
We've been watching the contest, the candidates, and the results, of course, but we're also watching the money.
Man, we want to see what the papers are saying about all of this, starting with the Washington Post. And this headline, Romney is showing scars from ugly primary battle. The article says Romney has been squeezed between the demands of winning the nod of a party that is more conservative than it was 4 years ago, and the realities of a general election in which winning the middle is crucial. The headline in the International Herald Tribune is Poorly Told Fortunes. It's an opinion piece that says with his time served on the trail in 2008 and the money he had going into 2012 and his momentum coming out of Florida, Mitt Romney was supposed to be turning much of his attention to the autumn by now, not looking over his shoulder and sweating Ohio. And finally, this headline in USA Today, GOP primaries, be careful what you wish for. It's a comment piece that goes on to say the title of front runner keeps getting passed around like a hot potato because none of these candidates is sufficiently loved to satisfy a majority of GOP voters. His big spending campaign helped him bank the big prize in play on Tuesday, the state of Ohio. Let's go live now to CNN's political editor Paul Steinhauser, who is in the state capital, Columbus. It was a win, but it was barely a marginal win, just by 1%.
Very, very close. Less than around 10,000 votes. That's it. You know, Monita, a lot like last week where Romney had a win.
Defense Ministry says 6 of its soldiers are missing, believed killed in Afghanistan. It says their armored vehicle was hit by an explosion during a patrol in Helmand province. CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh joins us now from Kabul with the latest on that. Nick.
Well, we hear from a British military source that this explosion occurred in the Mar07 district in Helmand.
They're in Kabul. The UN's humanitarian chief has flown into Syria for urgent talks with the Syrian regime, while thousands of refugees are taking flight from the bloodshed. Well, the UN Special Envoy Kofi Annan is set to meet Arab League officials in Cairo today before heading to Damascus. CNN's Ara Damon is following developments from Beirut in Lebanon. She joins us now. And Ara, let's begin with what I guess these officials are hearing about what's happening actually in Syria today.
Well, as you were mentioning there, Valerie Amos was arriving in Damascus.
Ara Damon in Beirut. You're watching World One, live from London. Still ahead, the job seekers in China who are getting more demanding than ever before. Asia and around the world suffered a wobble this week, and it was a reminder of just how essential China is to the global economy. Shares fell when Beijing lowered its official target for growth in 2012. But if expectations are being lowered, the message hasn't got through yet to Chinese workers. All the evidence is that their aspirations are rising. For more on that, CNN's Eunice Yoon joins us now live from Beijing. And Eunice, unemployment is a major issue for countries around the world. Talk to us about what China is facing.
Well, Monita, a top minister at the ongoing National People's Congress addressed this, saying that China is grappling with a mismatch in the jobs market.
All right, Eunice, thank you. Eunice Yoon there in Beijing for us. Now, to give you some context on the fast-growing Chinese economy, Premier Wen Jiabao just this week said the official target for 2012 was a growth of 7.5%, which would be phenomenal in just about any other country, but it's a slowdown for China. The target for the past 6 years has been 8% a year. You're watching World One, live from London. Prince Harry is showing off his moves as he represents his grandmother, the Queen, in Jamaica on her Diamond Jubilee. He joined in dancing to Bob Marley's One Love. The prince is trying to spread as much goodwill as possible, especially since Jamaica's Prime Minister wants to remove the Queen as head of state. CNN's royal correspondent Max Foster is with the prince. He joins us now live from Kingston. Hello, Max. How'd it go?
Hi. Well, I know you've been interested in this meeting with the Prime Minister. You'll see how that went in just a moment.
I knew you were going to do that, Max. You're our Prince Charming. Thank you very much for that. Max Foster, world correspondent there in Kingston. Here are some of the stories that caught our eye today. Police are on the hunt for a fugitive in Tokyo. He's neither armed nor dangerous, except maybe to fish. A one-year-old penguin, similar to the one you see here, escaped from a zoo in Japan. The daring break has baffled park authorities, who say the enclosure was surrounded by a 2-meter fence. They've appealed for help in locating the bird. He was last seen happily paddling around the rivers near the zoo. I love penguins. Now, from a penguin who gave authorities the slip to a woman who slipped on a greasy chip. Yeah, this much-loved fast food item has cost one company in Australia more than $600,000. That's how much one woman received in compensation when she came into contact with the French fry, resulting in a heavy fall inside a shopping centre. The court ruled in her favour, citing negligence. Well, from one fried food to another, this fried nugget is also worth a pretty penny. We'll explain, but for an entirely different reason. This chicken McNugget attracted attention because of its uncanny resemblance to the first U.S. president, George Washington. In fact, the woman who noticed it was so convinced of its resemblance, she put it up on eBay, where it sold for more than $8,000. Apparently, that's the nose, and that's the beard. That's what they're saying. Apparently, they're calling it a golden nugget as well. You're watching World One live from London. UN's humanitarian chief Valerie Amos is in Syria for urgent talks. She wants the government to give aid workers access to areas that have suffered most from government attacks. At the same time, thousands of people are trying to get out of the country. Many have crossed into Lebanon, where, as Nick Robertson reports, they're bringing with them stories of shocking brutality.
Hidden in woods close to the Lebanese border, Lebanese Red Cross ambulances wait.
Former UN chief in Sudan says he fears the worst for tens of thousands of people living in the Nuba mountain region in the south of the country. Mukesh Kapila says the Sudanese government is carrying out crimes against humanity there, torching villages, destroying crops and bombing civilians. Well, Sudanese leaders say they are fighting rebels allied to neighboring South Sudan, but human rights groups say the bombing campaign is indiscriminate. Men, women and children have been forced to leave their homes. This boy took refuge in a shelter made of leaves to hide from fighter jets patrolling above. Well, when Sudan split in two last year, it was hoped it would become more peaceful and more stable, but 8 months into the country separating, nothing has happened so far. This is where most of the fighting is taking place, the South Kordofan region, straddling the border between South and Sudan and South Sudan. The two countries are at odds over who owns certain parts of the territory and who should pay for vital oil transit routes. Mukesh Kapila, as we were saying, is the former envoy to Sudan, and he joins us now. Mukesh, thank you very much for being with us. You've been there. You've been to the region of South Kordofan. Tell us, what exactly did you see?
Well, as soon as we went into the Nuba Mountains, I saw burnt-out villages, mile after mile after mile. I saw destroyed food stores. I saw landmines, which I didn't know the Sudan government was using there.
The situation in Darfur was labeled as potentially the worst humanitarian crisis. Yeah. And the situation that you're saying right now in the Nuba Mountains is potentially worse than what you saw there. Who do you hold responsible? Do you hold the governments of Sudan and South Sudan responsible, or do you hold the international community responsible for not paying much attention?
Well, of course, the primary responsibility must lie with those who are perpetrating.
Hillary, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You are watching World One live from London.
He is one of the most successful quarterbacks in American football history, and Peyton Manning may be about to become a free agent, which could set off a scramble to sign him. Alex Thomas is here with much more on that.
Yes, Monita, a famous and successful 14-year association. Afternoon UK time on Thursday.
Despite that, they get on? You don't get along with your brother-in-law if you have one?
Yeah, I do. That's true. Maybe I'm being harsh.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. You're watching World One live from London. Coming up, flood hit Australians have been bracing for the worst. Mari Ramos is keeping a watchful eye on the forecast there, Mari.
It's hard to imagine that it could have been much worse for some communities across New South Wales.
You are watching World One live from London. We are approaching 7 a.m. in New York. It's almost 1 p.m. for you in Berlin, and it is almost 9 p.m. in Tokyo. After all the snow we had here in Europe this winter, it is hard to believe some parts of the continent are still suffering from drought. Mari Ramos tells us more now from the CNN World Weather Center. Mari, hello.
Hello, Monita. Isn't that amazing? Drought. We still have to talk about drought across many parts of Europe.
Still some extreme weather patterns there in parts of the world. All right, Mari, thank you so much. I'm Monita. Rajpal, thank you for joining us. Stay with us, though. World One continues in just a minute.